Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you think about the things the ANC is doing and you just think to yourself like, yes, these guys are dumb. Anyway, let's get on to the news stories. And this actually is the news story. The ANC has hit back at the whole Iranian ambassador visit and said to the United States that you can't tell us who to be friends with and we won't hide our friends from you. This after Joel Pollock, if you watched my video yesterday, you saw what the palaver was, commented on the meeting between the ANC and Iran and said that the chasm between the United States and South Africa was getting bigger because of the friends that South Africa tends to align itself with. Now, according to the first Deputy Secretary General, long title, but that's basically the person underneath Fikile Mbalula, they will meet with and have discussions and be friends with anyone. And apparently Iran was a friend to the ANC during apartheid and they supported them during apartheid. And I'm assuming by that logic, if the devil supported them during apartheid, they'd be having meetings now with the devil because he's their friend? Because he supported them that one time? Yeah, I don't know. I can't make sense of it either. But in either way, who cares what anybody has to say? They are going to be friends with Iran, whether we want them to or not. Now, this becomes interesting because, you see, in other news, Loot Freely House is apparently yet again unable to pay salaries. Now, some individuals, on the last time that noted the ANC hadn't paid salaries for many, many months, noticed that coincidentally, the money to pay the salaries just came out like manna from heaven. And they were able to pay millions in loans, and obviously money is owed to other entities and all the staff salaries and SARS bills. I mean, there was lots of money owed. They magically found this money underneath the sofa, all around the same time that they took Israel to the ICJ. And some politicians have alleged, potentially, that the ANC actually got that money from Iran. So why exactly is this all interesting? Well, that is because Israel, an Israeli NGO, is hitting back at the ANC, basically saying that basically the US needs to investigate corruption claims against the South African leadership, noticeably the ANC. And they highlight specifically the allegations of corruption involving bribery, with potentially the funds used to cover ANC debt being paid for by Iran in return for actually pursuing an ICJ case against Israel, specifically for the allegation of committing genocide in Gaza. Now, one has to ask the question, what's the likelihood that that's going to happen again? Because here we have, yet again, the news that the ANC cannot pay salaries, and also the news that they're in Iran on an ambassadorial type visit with the Deputy Secretary General, who I must highlight is not an ambassador. They're just a member of the party. So it's a member of the party in Iran discussing South African issues all around the same time that there isn't any money to pay salaries. The last time this happened, there's an allegation that they basically got corruption money so that they could pay salaries in order to pursue a case against the ICJ. These are all big coincidences. You can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Does 1 + 1 = 2? Or do we have to follow the Orwell type suggestion and just disbelieve our eyes? Because our eyes are lying. If you know, you know. Moving swiftly on to the whole US debacle, what else is happening? Things aren't going any better today because apparently the DA has suggested that following its visit to Washington, they want to cut a deal with Trump, specifically in terms of the reduction of race-based laws. And apparently if the Washington can get South Africa to relax some of the laws, then the actual issues, the diplomatic issues the two countries are experiencing may ease. And in return, I would say you've got more luck convincing all Muslims to eat pork. It's just not going to happen. So what else has happened then, specifically in terms of Washington's approach to South Africa? Well, more sanctions, I'm afraid. We say sanctions, they're not really sanctions, but they are cutting of aid. And this does have a sanction type effect on the South African economy, specifically in relation to what is now another further $1 billion US that has been cut from South Africa, specifically in relation to the Climate Pact. Now, for those of you who don't recall, in 2021, South Africa went to one of these old, G20 things, and they all agreed on the Just Energy Transition Program, which at the time was one of the primary causes that South Africa was experiencing high degrees of load shedding. Because we signed this pact, and in return for this pact, they would give us like 8 billion over a number of years to transition away from coal and move us on to, new green energy. And one of the signatories was, the United States. And the United States have now said, they're not going to give any more money. Apparently, the money train now ends, and South Africa needs to look after itself. And this, unfortunately, is going to cause problems, because we now have a 1 billion black hole in our financing, specifically in relation to the energy program. Now, you see, the European allies have all said, don't worry, we'll fill some of the hole, but they haven't exactly said how and how much. The fact is, they may just offer 50 quid and say, well, that's our contribution. That's more than we were giving you yesterday. But in any case, South Africa has actually been singled out with the withdrawal of these funds that were directly due to South Africa specifically, because this program or this partnership was a direct contribution to South Africa itself. Does that mean that South Africa is being punished further by the US? I suppose you could infer that, but let us not forget that Trump is cutting aid all around the world on every program that's going. I discussed yesterday even Lesotho losing $8 million that it was getting for LGBT, whatever. So in that respect, yes, we have been singled out. In another respect, this is just all part of Trump's cutting regime. What it does, however, show you is just how much money South Africa has been getting through various programs over the years. Because now that they're all being cut, we're seeing full well what the results of that actually are. And they're rather surprising. HIV programs, TB programs, energy programs. There's a lot of money coming from the US. And considering Ramaphosa and the ANC's approach to the US is, bloody imperialists must, go back to America or whatever. Well, chickens are coming home to roost, and they're not looking pretty. Talking of not looking pretty, the last news story is actually around Gauteng, because Ramaphosa had this to say about Gauteng.
One or two meetings of the G20 that I attended here was not very pleasing. The environment that one observed was not a pleasing environment. I say this so that we can improve immensely. As South Africans, we are proud people, and let us get that pride that we have, self-pride, lift us up so that we do present a G20 that will wow people, so that when people look at what we offer and present, they must just say, wow, this is how South Africans do it. So colleagues, I'm really pleased to be here.
And why I find this all actually very rich is because Ramaphosa seems to forget his party controls Gauteng and it controls Johannesburg, and everything he's seeing is a direct contribution from his party. His party has done this. Now, Ramaphosa is having to go through forms of North Korean propaganda at the moment, whereby he's trying to show the G20 visitors only the window dressing. He's trying to show them the only shop in North Korea with food and saying, look, we've got loads of food. We all know how this works. You see, he's hosting a lot of foreign delegates, and he's trying to make sure that the routes that they travel on look pristine. And he even says, we want everybody to be like, wow, this is how South Africa does stuff. The problem is, Mr. President, no one says that in our country. Quite the reverse. We're rather ashamed and embarrassed by the state of things that your party has directly contributed to. And so, whilst the president may say, what we really want to do is make Gauteng wow the G20 people, statutory woes are still very much a problem in that province. The province continues to slide into absolute third world status underneath ANC leadership. And I'm afraid you cannot hide from that accountability. You see, because that actually is the problem in South Africa. As this article from the chair of the Desmond Tutu Foundation actually rightly points out, and that is, South Africa actually does have many, many resources of its own. We actually have a lot of money in the system. But the problem is there's no accountability of how the money actually gets used. The money isn't used in an efficient manner. It's stolen. And Ramaphosa keeps having to say to his people time and time again, please stop stealing, please stop stealing. But they don't stop stealing. And that doesn't mean that your organization it isn't any less of a criminal organization for stealing taxpayer money. It's still a criminal organization who's stealing taxpayer money. And unfortunately, no matter how much you plead with them to stop stealing, they're not stopping stealing, which means they should be prosecuted. But they're not going to be because they have the protection of the party. And so whilst they have the protection of that party, accountability is still going to be lacking, and the place is still just going to hell in a handbasket, directly as a result of your policy, your leadership, and your people. And at some point in time, you're going to have to take account of that yourself. But that's just my opinion. Please feel free to hook me up in the comment section below and let me know what you think. In any case, until Monday, bye.